If you are like me and have no friends to play your favorite game with you, you should probably play less games and try to find some. But as a temporary fix, here are 3 solo player builds for Wayfinder. Being solo player builds, these all offer high survivability through exceptional self-healing, shield mechanics or damage reduction. Which doesn't mean they deal not enough damage. All combat footage on screen is from mythic hunts on normal difficulty. Every build has its unique playstyle and leans into different aspects, which gives you options for more gameplay variety. And all have their own unique strength, like exceptional break power with Wingrave for example, which makes him perfect to fight the Brood Mother, where Venomness would have a hard time chewing through her crystal form. On the other hand, she can dish out damage from a safe distance and constantly trigger enormous amounts of self-healing, ideal for fights with a lot of special phases and mechanics, like Legion. Kicking this list off is Wingrave with a classic sword and shield build, sporting the new Unity weapon set. Because his abilities do not deal damage in any significant way, you will completely lean into the weapon moveset and weapon ability to deal some chunky damage with enormous amounts of break damage. Character abilities take more the role of a tactical support option, and you will not constantly spam them on cooldown. You use them whenever you need some health or breathing room. Judgment works great on crowds to get fast heals from a lot of quick attacks. Your ultimate turns a close death into a full health bar, and your other 2 options can provide some quick heals or damage reduction. Blocking with your shield reduces incoming damage by 100%, even those telegraphed purple ground effects. As long as you have some stamina left, you can outlast anything the game throws at you. The Turtle Saw, or however that is pronounced, Blood Brew consumable buff should always be up with this build. Shield and sword builds utilize heavy attacks in form of shield bashes, which can perform a 4-strike sequence ending with a powerful ground slam. Jump heavy attacks will be used a lot to quickly load up your weapon ability. Wingrave's passive charges weapon abilities 15% faster, and we will add another 15%, more on that in a second. Because of the constant jump heavy attacks, the new Renegade Rush type Echo works perfect with the build. You can get it through a side quest chain in the Crucible. But the 2 Rush Echo slots do not make or break any of my builds. Go with whatever option you prefer, there are a lot of cool echoes available. Because of all what I just explained, Wingrave stats focus on weapon damage. You take as much health and defensive bonuses as you need and stuff anything else first and foremost into weapon power. You can ignore ability power echoes, so your stat spread might look something like this in the end. This is not set in stone, just a general direction which echo stats you should prioritize. Ability points are not crucial in this build. I put 3 into Judgment for a nice utility boost and spread the other more or less evenly between the other abilities. For artifact set bonuses I would use anything that boosts health, physical defense and weapon power, like the Blessing of the Reaver King set. But there are so many options in the game, and sometimes you just have to make the best out of what you have available at the time. For talents we go full damage boost, because Wingrave already comes with more than enough survivability. Talents to pick are Grim Devotion for a huge weapon power boost, and boosting your health while also passively boosting your weapon power is perfect for this build. Ways of War and Unstoppable will amplify your damage even more. You now have 30% faster charging weapon abilities, and the Unity weapon set hits like a truck, breaks any kind of guard, and you can follow up with a 4-strike heavy attack combo that is absolutely devastating. Along the way you can activate 2 of those triangles in the talent tree, which double their bonuses on full activation. Affinities are set to 15, 5, 15 to activate buffs for more healing power, reduce incoming damage and increase weapon power. I would focus on getting 15, 0, 15 first and aim for the Discipline perk last. To sum it up, a very classic shield and sword build utilizing mainly weapon attacks, leaning a lot into heavy attacks and jump heavy attacks while using character abilities as a tactical support tool, and your weapon ability that charges quickly on cooldown for high damage output, which sets this build apart from my other shield build. Lora, as an arcane warrior, will do the opposite and constantly spam her character abilities on cooldown to amplify ability power, reduce cooldowns and gain overshield. You can mainly ignore her passive ability with the separate build bar on your screen because it is just a passive build spend mechanic you can't really influence. But you want to keep an eye out for the blue cubes she spawns. Those will trigger some core mechanics like cooldown reduction, more ability power and the overshield. With the Tooth and Claw weapon set, she also has a hard-hitting weapon ability that can even be used from a distance. Like Wingrave, jump heavy attacks should be used often to charge the weapon ability, but here it is more the icing on the cake. Opposed to Wingrave, all her abilities deal damage, and using them on cooldown rather than as tactical tools is the name of the game. That's why her stat sheet looks different. Apart from your usual health and defensive bonuses, you should focus on ability power. You can ignore my low magical defense here. I usually try to keep that higher, especially because we have one talent which will give you a stacking shield based on your magical defense stat. To achieve all this, talents are set as follows: Overwhelming Arcane for a stacking ability power buff, Quickening Innovation for a constant cooldown reduction, Bountiful Innovation to spawn more blue innovation orbs in the first place, and Repulsion for the additional stacking overshield effect. The result is quite hilarious. The more you cast, the more innovation cubes you get, while buffing your ability power, reducing cooldowns and gaining overshield with each pickup. So whenever one ability comes out of cooldown, cast it. Your weapon fills the in-between role when everything is on cooldown, which isn't very long usually. So the exact opposite to Wingrave's playstyle, despite featuring the same weapon combination. And her ultimate is the strongest in the game. Watch as this boss bar in the Mythic Hunt gets decimated, while also being invulnerable for the time being. If you spend her ability points like this, your ultimate gains the full possession shield during its activation, and poof, you are the Hulk for 10 seconds straight, which feels like forever in a fight. For artifact sets, you might look out for boosts to health, magical defense and ability power. So far I haven't found a set which boosts all three. Let me know in the comments if you stumble across one. Lora's affinities are set to 5, 25, 5. With this, you build up the passive channel meter faster for that extra kick in your abilities and strike a nice balance between amplifying damage and reducing incoming damage. The 5 points in Instinct basically grant you 20% damage reduction very early on. The final Discipline perk is a meaty 25% damage buff and totally worth getting. Don't be scared that Lora does not have a passive heal. The amount of overshield and damage reduction makes her a lot sturdier than she looks, and her damage output is fine, with the best ultimate in the game by far. Finally, let's talk about Venomness, my personal favorite, because I do enjoy the ranged combat in this game. Equipped with her signature weapon Nightshade, she can tackle anything from a safe distance, is quick on her feet, and her abilities combine great damage, damage over time and a truckload of self-healing. For stats you want to balance weapon and ability power in combination with your basic health and defensive boosts. Choose your artifact set bonuses accordingly. Again, the Blessing of the Reaver King is a good all-rounder, but Shifting Shadows with a boost to ability and weapon power is just one of many sets that work well. Nightshade is the perfect weapon for Venomness, with the strong weapon ability Wyvern's Fury, which is like tailor-made for her. I don't think any other weapon makes sense here. In terms of talents, this build is maybe the least dependent on a specific setup. While the other two builds need their talents to really work, this one could really go with anything, because her core features are already baked into the ability rotation. I chose to lean into the expose weakness aspect, although I did not prioritize crit rating in her stats. but it feels like the best option compared to the other talents available. So Red Feast, Deadly Insight, Counterplay and Will to Survive are my go-to options to amplify the Expose Weakness feature from critical hits, plus buffing her dodge with some utility and damage reduction. It is her ability set where she really shines with 3 points in Transfusion for more and stronger needles, 2 points in Venom Thrusters and 1 point each into Deep Breath and Vampiric Blast. In combat I try to use her Venom Thrusters always in combination with Vampiric Blast to explode the clouds you leave on your trail behind for some great AoE damage. The poison needles are your heal on demand on a short cooldown, but in general you should rarely run out of active self-heals during a fight. She plays very dynamic with a balanced mix between weapon attacks and abilities. The Turtle Saw consumable buff again is a great option to dodge a lot in quick succession. Her affinities are set to 15, 5, 15. Ignore her extra points from being a 4-star character already. This way you get access to more damage over time, a 10% higher crit chance, which works great for her Expose Weakness trait, and some more healing, although being situational. That's why I would go 15, 0, 15 first and put the final 5 points into Discipline. Being a range class, you see much better what is going on in a fight. She is my go-to class for strange boss mechanics or figuring out a new fight. That doesn't mean she's not dealing great damage, but she has less burst damage or break damage on demand than the other two builds. But her over-the-top self-healing and control over the battlefield makes more than up for this. If you have any questions about the builds or your own suggestions and twists, let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching to the end. I hope you found this to be helpful. For now, this is all about Wayfinder. Take good care of yourself and enjoy playing without friends.